afternoon, everyone. We are here for Archaeology Wednesdays. My name is Kathleen, and I am the Historic Site Director for Spring Hill Historic Home. And we are here with Nicole Curlutu, our resident archaeologist, who is going to be answering some of the questions you guys submitted from our last video. Hi, Nicole.
Hello, happy Archaeology Wednesday, everybody.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive right into our first question. First question comes from Melissa, who asks, how can you tell the difference between human and animal bones?
That is a very good and difficult question. So sometimes it can be very difficult to tell if what you're looking at is human and animal, especially if you're in a place where you expect a little bit of both. Now here at Spring Hill, we expect no human remains. We know everyone is buried off-site at a cemetery that's in town. But here in front of me is a small sample of some of the animal bones that we've dug up on site. And in regards to the question, the best way I'd say that you can tell the difference between human and animal is by looking at the density relative to the size, because animal bones tend to have a higher density in relation to the size of the bone. The best way I would say to be able to tell if a bone is human or animal is by having an expert look at them. There are people who study human remains as well as animal remains, so they can take a look and tell you, yes, this is human, or no, this is not human, by looking at the size, the density, the shape, and they know specifically what they're looking at. But all of these we know for sure to be animal bones.
Our next question comes from Scott, who asks, what is the oldest artifact that we have found on Spring Hill property? And what is the process by which we determine its age?
Those are more good questions, of course. So some of the oldest artifacts that we have found on site to date, we can attribute to the Native American tribes that lived here way before any English were in the area. And they did use this land as land for hunting and gathering. So in front of me here is a small example of a few of the artifacts that are projectile points. And you can see they all look very different. So the way that we can determine an age, the best way to explain it would be to give an example. If you think about clothing or cars, our cars and clothing today do not look the same as they did maybe 100, 200, 300 years ago, because things come and go out of style, new inventions come about, and better ways of doing things also come out. So that is also the same with our projectile points. We use what's called a seriation, which will show what styles of projectile points were more popular during which times, how long that might have spanned. So just by looking at the style, the technique they were made, and even the products that they were made with, we can kind of give our best guess as to what date that might have come from.
So another question from Scott is, can natural erosion skew analytics?
Yes, the answer is very definitely yes. And it can happen in various ways. For example, our site is on a hill. So when erosion, when water disturbances cause the dirt to flow downhill, it can mix up your layers, which we know is happening in our site here, because as we're digging layer by layer down, we noticed that in some of the deeper layers and the upper layers, there are pieces that mend together. So that tells me there is probably some erosion of dirt down the hill towards the bottom, and mixing of layers happening here. Now we can also see it in other sites around the world. I know a lot of sites are dealing with erosion due to water levels rising, the changing paths of rivers. For example, historic Jamestown. When I used to work there, we found that a lot of the site had been washed away by the river. So that's gone forever, and it is somewhere probably down the river. So that is moving context out of place and into a different location, which can skew the data as well as make a completely different site.
Julie asks, what is the most interesting thing that you have found in your entire scope of experience?
Oh gosh, so there are so many things that I've found as I've worked on a lot of different sites, But I'd say for me, a lot of people expect me to say something like a pile of gold or silver. And yes, I have found silver items before, but I'd say the thing that is most special and most important to me is a connection to the people who lived back then. So for me, that was digging the Jamestown Towers foundation and seeing the original bricks that were placed there probably by the enslaved population that lived in the area at the time. And there were fingerprints in the bricks by those people who lived there, who made that building, who put their blood, sweat, and tears into making these bricks and these foundations. And it's a very cool link historically to be able to put your finger in that fingerprint and know that someone hundreds and hundreds of years ago did this before you, was the last person to do that before you, to touch that before you. So it's a very cool feeling.
That's fascinating. Amazing. All right, we have a different Scott. Scott L. asks, what happens if you find human remains?
Ooh, okay. Well, that is a good question. So, if you're working on a site and you come across human remains, this applies for anywhere, construction workers, anybody. The thing you have to do is stop immediately. Don't touch anything else. Stop digging on the entire site. You have to contact the police, even sometimes the county medical examiner. Let them know what you have, because they have to come out here and look and say, okay, how old is this body? Do we need to investigate a murder? Or is it something that is historic? And if it is historic, you generally have to rebury it pretty immediately. There are instances where I have dug human remains in the past and taken them out, but that is because we had special permission to do that, as the remains were in danger of the erosion, like I talked about earlier, into washing away down the river. So you have to have special permission in order to deal with remains. But the thing that you have to do is immediately stop and contact somebody about that.
Our final question comes from Mara, who asks, what is the biggest difference between working at a large site like Jamestown and a smaller site like Spring Hill?
That is a very good question. So the answer to that, I would say, Jamestown has a lot of professional archaeologists that are working on the site at all times. It's a full-time job. They do it from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, all the weekdays. Here it's kind of limited, and we have very, I'd say, not as advanced equipment as Jamestown. Our research is solely funded off of donations, and if you come and get a tour here at the site, the money you pay for that as well. So we are lacking in things like a total station to take coordinates with, even like a ground penetrating radar machine. There are things that in the future we would like to get for our project to help us do a better job and to record more information. But as of right now, we are doing a really good job with what we've got. If you are interested in giving, maybe you would like to see more archaeology videos or more archaeology happening. If you are interested in giving to Spring Hill, you can participate in our holiday giving campaign, and Kathleen can tell you a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Nicole. Yes, Spring Hill began its holiday giving campaign on November 1st. The campaign runs through the month and culminates on December 3rd for Giving Tuesday. While giving is usually associated with monetary donations, there are many ways to be generous this holiday season. As Nicole mentioned, you can donate directly to Spring Hill for an area you are most interested in, whether that be archaeology, restoration, collections and archives, or educational outreach and programming. Or you can give of your time, your skills, and your ideas by becoming a member. So, if you want to be participating in this amazing field of archaeology or otherwise, there is something for you here at Spring Hill. You can check out our links in the description below for more information.
Thank you so much for all of your guys' great questions that you have asked, and thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in our holiday giving campaign, there will be a link below for you to click on to find out more about that. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next Archaeology Wednesday.